Ladies and gentlemen, our first major story that we're going to cover, we're going to jump right into it because the people of Minnesota are scared. They're nervous. They're shaking in their beds at night. They call for their mothers. They really there's true genuine fear. Your heart will beat out of your chest, like pulling the covers over your head because they're the only thing that'll save you from the monsters that are out there. That is how scared most Minnesotans are right now, and rightfully so. There was a man who fatally stabbed his wife and their 7-year-old daughter at a Minnesota daycare that was owned by the couple before taking his own life Wednesday. This was, I don't know where in Minnesota this is. This looks like a little tiny place right outside of the Twin Cities.
This is where a man fatally stabbed his wife and their 7-year-old daughter before killing himself.
Hopkins, Minnesota. Yeah, what are you going to do?
Children at the daycare owned by the deceased couple were not harmed, according to local authorities.
So he just wanted to kill himself and his child. He was, and his wife, but all other 6 children that got to witness the murder-suicide, he was, gracious enough to just leave them with the trauma.
We were able to get them out of the daycare and reunify them with their parents.
Look at what you did, man.
At this time, there's no outstanding threats in the community.
Police believe the man also killed a 78-year-old relative at her home prior to the attack at the daycare. Authorities say they are working to determine the motive.
Sometimes people go a little nutty. Sometimes we'll talk about that with John Hinckley Jr. He's spoken out recently. He's wishing Jodie Foster well. Look at that. Maybe he's actually made some progress in jail. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Minneapolis, the people of Minnesota in general, neighborhoods across Minneapolis are still on high alert. Residents are, their voices are growing in frustration. The fear of the youth violence, the disruptive street gatherings, the local leaders and the police departments ignoring it all. Across the Twin Cities metro area, there's teen takeovers happening every other weekend. There's large groups of teenagers using their social media platforms to organize these massive assemblies in public parks, commercial districts, residential streets, anywhere, like public pools, like mass delinquency events. And that's exactly what they're having to deal with. They're having to deal with youth gangs. Their teenagers are, debating whether or not they want to join the Latin Kings. And it's like, hey, you're a white kid named Leon. I really don't think you have a chance with them, but you're better off going with the skinheads. And that's you as a mother in Minneapolis. You want your child to become a skinhead because then at least he'll have a chance to walk around the streets with a gang that'll, they'll defend him a little bit. You know what I mean? He'll have a family out there in the streets. In parts of southeast Minneapolis, property owners report feeling trapped in their own homes as spontaneous crowds descend on their blocks, sometimes resulting in open chaos, property damage, and armed confrontations. Yes. Because that's bound to happen when you got a lot of folks that are feeling a little wild. You're going to have 8-year-olds caught in the crossfire because some 18-year-old dissed some other 18-year-old's shoes, ladies and gentlemen. Local law enforcement, urban policy experts are saying that this is fueled by viral coordination. Hundreds of young people are going on Instagram, Snapchat, any of those sort of places. Many of teenagers attend simply looking for social outlets. Local officials are still warning that these gatherings can rapidly escalate into dangerous environments. Authorities are pointing to the post-pandemic scarcity of dedicated youth spaces, combined with online incentives for risky behavior, as driving factors behind why these meetups are frequently spiraling out of control. Well, yeah. In Minneapolis, you got a lot of the street cred gangs. You got a lot of the people where it's like, unfortunately, I don't like that fella at school. He's running with my girl or something like that. Maybe it's literally like high school drama these people are killing over. And unfortunately, with the Somali gangs in particular that they talked about, they go through their social medias. Most of the time, it's out of like a diss. It's out of disrespect. It's out of just like the old school 90s, like you dissed me. Now you're gonna die. Literally, like, I'm going to put metal into your head. It's gonna stop your cerebral cortex from firing. You're gonna drop to the ground, and you're gonna make this weird like as your body struggles to try to keep itself alive. That is the energy now in Minneapolis. A lot of people like it. They like it because they don't do anything about it. That's at least the people who sit on the city councils, the town councils, all of those places where, the rich people, they need something to do because they're bored. They're tired of doing drugs in their house, their big house with 10-foot ceilings, and it's those beautiful homes where you can see the shape of the roof. They have that like triangle design and whatnot. They're tired of sitting in log cabins next to their lake, and they're like, well, local politics sounds kind of interesting. I already get enough of a power trip through the HOA. He takes a nice little drag off of a cigar. He's like, I'm already a bit of a megalomaniac. Why don't I try this out? But like, I don't know. I run for like a little, maybe I run for mayor or something like that. That's just like a fun little side hobby. But I'm not going to be concerned about actually lowering crime. I'm not going to be concerned about addressing the concerns of the people. We'll institute juvenile curfews. We'll increase some police monitoring on social media. You know, we'll increase our surveillance state. We'll get more contracts with Palantir. We'll establish more rapid response units that are going to go sleep on the job and whatnot. Youth advocates, fuck them. Violence intervention groups, we're going to try to make sure that their statements don't mean very much. Enforcement alone is going to take care of the problem. I don't care if you say it's insufficient. I don't care if you are going to call for greater investment in like, oh, we need late night community programs. We need safe recreation centers. We need active mentorship programs to give young people constructive alternatives to living on the street. Not happening. You bleeding heart. Unfortunately, we're going to arrest these kids. We're going to go to their house to make sure that the parents aren't fucked up. If they are, these kids are going into CPS. You know what I mean? It's gonna be rough. Unfortunately, these child protective services is gonna have a good time these next few years because there's gonna be a lot of troubled youths. There's a lot of troubled youths out there. Unfortunately, it's tough.
A growing number of U.S. cities are trying to crack down on so-called teen takeovers. So this is when large crowds of young people gather in a public place, often in response to online invites. Some of these events have ended with violence, arrests, and even deadly shootings. One major city is now considering a strict curfew to keep the kids away. Mark Strassman looks at the trend that's getting out of control.
Fireworks launched into crowds and at police as a 4th of July celebration in Newport Beach, California turned chaotic. Hundreds of young people arrested. Fights, vandalism, arrests. Scenes like this are playing out across the country at so-called teen takeover.
You know what's really fun is that they're going to have the electric gloves soon. Police units are getting those. Like, I know that people are just trying to go, it's ICE, it's immigration services, it's federal agents. No, local police, like metro, if you live in a metro area, which is kind of like, you know, you just have an ordinary police force, they're going to also have it. They're going to be taking down people that are resisting arrest. You know, if you're resisting your DUI, you're not going to get tased the old traditional way like your grandpa or your mom did. You're going to have an officer just grab your shoulder and you're going to fall onto the ground because it's going to deliver like 300, 3,000, 30,000, however many they want volts to you. It's going to be fun.
In a section of southeast Minneapolis say they're being held hostage by groups of teens with guns.
As Rich Chapman reports, they say they feel like they're living in a war zone.
Minneapolis.
Stone Arch Bridge is what condo owners here have grown to expect. But lately, when the sun goes down Thursday night, groups of teens fill the street. They're stopping right there at the intersection.
You don't just stop at an intersection, but look at all the people that are getting out of one car going into other cars in this commercial parking along the front of Middlematic.
Brian Bender placed cameras outside his condo to catch the action. So he's shooting into the car.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Shootings and the use of fireworks. He estimates between 150 and 200 teens each night use the streets outside his condo as a playground for dangerous activities.
The police come down, I text message them. I don't even call the police anymore, I send them text messages. And they'll come and they'll go in their microphone and yell at them, you can't be here, you can't park here, you gotta go home. Mind you, while they're saying that, a vehicle with girls hanging out the top of it will drive through a stop sign and whip past them and yell at them.
Bender says he heard the gunshots and saw the aftermath of a shooting that claimed the life of an 18-year-old.
Where are these kids getting, like, the cars? That's my question. I understand they're probably stealing their parents' car. Their parents are probably drunks and whatnot. It's a lot of Minneapolis people, unfortunately. A lot of people's parents, they're like going to sleep, with a drink in their hand every night. Unfortunately, it's a lot of Minnesota. It's a big drinking culture. So yeah, there's a lot of inactive parents. There's a lot of parents that are kind of barely there. They're going to bed before their kids a lot of the time and whatnot. And then the kids, they stay up and they're like, well, fuck it. What am I going to do? Sit and play Angry Birds? Or am I going to, go online and do Xbox and yell the N-word at each other? I'm good. Why do any of that when I can take my parents' Jeep or their like Ford Explorer and I can have a couple of my friends hang out the windows on the side, and if I accidentally, like, I'm going too fast and I flip the car, I can, kill a couple of my friends and go to jail.
Right outside his condo.
I have camera footage of an officer coming by 5 minutes before that shooting and yelling at them. 5 minutes.
Councilperson Mike Rainville says he is...
Back in my day, kids just used to like play the choking game. You know when your buddy used to put their hand on your sternum and choke you out and kill a couple of your brain cells, but it felt like a little mini trip, or like you felt like you just passed out and had this like a touch moment with God, or like the spirit realm, or like the blue whale game. You know what I mean? Like back in my day, kids just went online and killed themselves and like wrote the number that the person requested and like sent images of themselves and like got their lives ruined and whatnot. That's how kids hurt themselves back in the 2010s. You know what I mean? Sure, there was the occasional juvenile delinquency. There was the occasional big, whatever, where the kids got into a big fight at school or something. But otherwise, it wasn't, teen takeovers weren't huge back in the 2010s. It was mostly like if you were like a delinquent kid, if you were just like a piece of shit, you stole your parents' alcohol and you talked to some 30-year-old who like told you to cut yourself on the internet, like during the, that's what the 2010s were. It was a peak time to be a child. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, you were just so open and susceptible to ways to harm yourself, especially if your parents didn't care about what you were doing on the internet. There was like chat rooms for you to go in. It was just it was a dangerous time. This is exactly why I think like under 16 ban on social media, well, it has like its messy parts where because now you have to confirm your ID with your actual physical government ID. That's messy. It's got privacy risks and whatnot. It's still, I don't know. I just don't feel right about the idea of people under the age of like 16, because I grew up with so many people in middle school, even like 13, 14-year-old girls who like cut routinely and whatnot. And they're like, me and my boyfriend stayed up all night on Discord last night and we watched a movie and something like that. And he told me how much he loved me. How old's your boyfriend? 22. Like, what are we even talking about right now? That's just a reality for a lot of this world and a lot of this country. But nowadays, kids, they're done with the groomers. They're not as stupid as Gen Z, where like they're kind of stupid. They're still like the catch a predator situations where it's not an actual police officer, it's an actual 14-year-old girl. They're still idiots and whatnot, but who can blame them? They're children who have been given unmitigated access to the internet. They're gonna do some stupid shit, unfortunately, especially if they're fucked up. That the people who are the types that are in those chat rooms, they do not have a good family life. I'm telling you, the people that would like tell me that like, me and my boyfriend sat up all night and cut ourselves, those people don't have good family lives. Those people's parents, they're passing out most of the time. They're on pills, they're on alcohol, they're avoiding their kids and whatnot, and they're letting the internet raise them. Ladies and gentlemen, I watched the internet ruin so many of my friends, unfortunately. And that was the 2010s version. That was the Gen Z version of the internet ruining your life. It was talking to somebody who was twice your age and like them having photos of you and them being like, I'm going to send this to everybody if you stop talking to me or whatnot. And then the police get involved and whatnot. That's how Gen Z got in trouble with the police. It was through chat rooms. And it was threatening to kill yourself and whatnot, and then getting the police called on you. That was how Gen Z got involved with the police. Nowadays, Gen Alpha and the younger Gen Z, they're advanced. They're going, hey, instead of just being stupid and like risking our lives on the internet for like a fleeting moment of like a feeling like an adult, let's go out and feel like actual adults. Let's go steal our parents' car. Let's go meet people at the park, and let's go run away from cops.
Aware of what is happening and is working with officials to see how to stop it. He plans to meet with Somali violence interrupters to see how they can help.
I'm just trying to make my block safe for me, my dog, and my fellow condo owners.
Law enforcement say this is not...
That's the thing, is that he has nothing better to do because he doesn't have any children or anything to distract himself with. So he's like, I'm going to be the neighborhood safety guy.
The issue in Minneapolis is happening across the metro. St. Paul, Bloomington, Burnsville, and Columbia Heights are all working to stop groups of teens from gathering and shouting the silence of metro area neighborhoods. In Southeast Minneapolis, with photojournalist Chris Cruz, Rich Chapman, WCCO News.
Well, Columbia Heights, Minneapolis, best of luck to you. Oh yeah, and you got a first look at your 2027 budget plan for the city and whatnot. Jacob Fry, he's proposing an 11.3% property tax increase to address the $60 million budget gap, apparently. How do you fuck that up so badly? You're going to have to lay people off.
The challenge in Minneapolis, how to fill a $60 million gap in the city's budget. With tax increases alone, Mayor Jacob Fry says he would have to raise property taxes by more than 19%.
Oh.
To lower that number, he's recommending a more balanced approach.
Before asking residents to pay another dollar.
We have to ask ourselves whether we're spending every dollar as effectively as we can.
Fry's proposal includes an 11.3% tax increase, about $34 a month for the average family, and cuts to city programs, and eliminating 100 city jobs.
Oh, how
Council
nice.
members have a wide range of opinions on the mayor's budget. Many were uncomfortable with such a high property tax increase.
I'm going to dig really deep to find out how that number came about, and I'm going to be looking for further cuts, too.
8% average increase since 2018, 2019 was the average, and that's just not sustainable for any resident, for any business.
Who's living in the Twin Cities still? Honestly, I'm debating as to whether or not anybody is still calling it home. Anybody with half a functioning brain. These people are like I want to wear an old money outfit every day, and I want to jog through the park with my buddies. I want to do Bible study every day with my roommates. These are what we would call Protestant queers in hiding, but it's still a thing. You know what I mean? These are the majority of the people that are living in Minneapolis and deciding to call it home still.
In just a few hours, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry will unveil his 2027 city budget. And according to those who have seen it, it could mean some bad news for residents. Here's what we know. Right now, the city is facing a $33 million budget gap. To help close it, the mayor is reportedly looking at laying off more than 100 city employees, the city's first major layoff in 16 years.
16 years, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to call it home, if you want to try out Minneapolis and you're willing to brave the prices, give it your best shot. You know what I mean? Speaking of